It's July 14th, 2020, as I'm passing through the town of Texaco, New Mexico. A BNSF westbound manifest freight train sneaks around the curve, transitioning from the Slaton Subdivision to the Hereford Subdivision as they head for Clovis. On this day, my job had me traveling back and forth along BNSF's Southern Transcon as I was on the return from Clovis heading back to Amarillo. This junction is pretty cool, with the Texas-New Mexico state line splitting right on this grade crossing. That's probably how the town Texaco got its name. This also marks my first train caught in the state of New Mexico. We're conquering one state at a time. I then run into this westbound S-Series train maxed out in size outside of Bovina, Texas, catching this 252 platform beast with 3 engines up front, 2 in the middle, and 2 pushing on the rear. Then on July 18th, my job moved me to work out of Lubbock, Texas for a little while, not too far of a drive from Amarillo. I went trackside to see what I could find, setting up here at Canyon Junction. It wasn't until after 3 hours of no movements when I had a unit train working Lubbock Yard. They were on the move west at 1512 heading towards Clovis. This crossing had a wayside horn installed, but wasn't working this afternoon, so crews were instructed to blow the horn. Note the KCS SD70 ACE in the power consist. Since this was the only thing that I could find, I chased them west to the town of Shallowater, Texas to catch them again, about 11 miles west of Lubbock. Lubbock Yard, I found to my surprise the railroad's geometry inspection train departing the depot heading east. On the 20th, I ventured out again into Lubbock by the tracks, finding a local job heading westbound from Slaton. The ex-Santa Fe SD40-2 number 1802 still has its original RS3L horn, along with an ex-Santa Fe Yellow Bonnet GP39-2 in the consist. Lubbock yard, I spotted a Texas Tech University painted SD40-2. This engine belonged to the Lubbock and Western Railroad. They're waiting for the 1802 to clear so they can make a pickup. Once the Lubbock and Western is finished making their pickup, they'll run along the Slaton Subdivision heading west to Broadview outside of town, where they would be back on their own trackage later on. Then, about 30 minutes later, a westbound manifest freight train departs Lubbock. The automated wayside horns are working this time. Put in another chase with them as I attempt to catch up. US Highway 84 parallels the tracks all the way to Texaco, so chasing on this line was going to be pretty easy. I pulled into shallow water again where they would run by at speed. I was heading back east when I found the Lubbock and Western back on their home rails. I found an accessible crossing along their line and shot them as they head to their local rail yard. On the east side of Lubbock, more closer to Sweetwater actually, I stop in the town of Hermleigh, Texas, finding a clear signal for a westbound. It's a manifest freight train led by BNSF SD70 ACE 8786. We transition over to the UP for a moment as we get quite the horn show from UP AC44CW 6402. It's 3:17 in the morning as silence breaks in Sweetwater, Texas. This is actually a crew change point for them after making an eastbound run from Pecos. Then at 3:25, train ZLA-MQ2 was on the move with a fresh crew on board. 4:56, another eastbound came into Sweetwater to swap crews, then getting on the move at 5:13 with a new crew. This is train MMHFW, led by UPAC 4460 CW 7059. Get back to the Lubbock area later that afternoon as I was in pursuit of a military container train with all CSX power. That's my home railroad. They had just received a weather warning with wind gusts up to 60 miles an hour. Wanting to shoot them in the Texas Panhandle, I caught up and then got ahead of them to the town of Anton, Texas, as CSX ES40DC number 5480 leads the train westbound. As I'm heading back east, a westbound manifest freight train was following the military train. Roundup, Texas would be the place I'd pull off at as I run into local railfan Mikey Castro along the way. Back in Lubbock Yard, a remote job comes towards me going under the I-27 overpass as I wait for a crew. I made another trip to Sweetwater as I leave the BNSF yard, seeing a westbound intermodal train coming in. A UP train had also departed Sweetwater and was heading in the same direction as I was. Shooting them just outside of Roscoe, the Atlanta to Los Angeles intermodal train ZAILC is led by SD70 ACE 8631. It was pretty neat to see one of many foreign intermodal trains running out of my home city here on its home rails. I didn't think I'd have the chance to see it all the way out here. The ZAILC originates from Norfolk Southern's Inman Yard and runs westbound to Meridian, Mississippi on NS rails. It would then be handed off to the Kansas City Southern to run across the Meridian Speedway through Jackson all the way to Shreveport, Louisiana. There, it's handed off to the UP and traverses west along the I-20 corridor through the areas of Dallas-Fort Worth, Abilene, Sweetwater, Big Spring, Midland, Pecos, and El Paso, Texas, all the way to Los Angeles. I had to get back west as I kept an eye on the Hot Z train as to why they were going so slow. As predicted, they were waiting on an eastbound. Driving in Texas has its perks. You can see trains for miles, such as this westbound Q train in the distance outside of Southland. Then on the 26th of July, I set out in Lubbock again for a better chance in catching something. So far, I think my odds are starting out pretty good, as a freight train is blocking the crossing working Lubbock Yard. That H1 SD40-2 caught my eye as I sit and watch them finish up their work.
3 cars slide in. 2 cars slide in. 1 car now slide in.
1 more.
25 feet slide in.
25 feet.
10 slack here slide in.
Okay.
Stop slide in.
Stop.
You can hear the crew calling out, "Slade in."
Slide in, please.
That means this is a Slaton, Texas to Denver, Colorado manifest freight train. I met up with local railfan Caelan, getting together to chase this train a good ways. It didn't take them long to get moving westbound as we set up at the Indiana Avenue crossing on the west side of town.
detector. Milepost 81.2. No defects. Repeat, no defects. Total axle 534 out.
They cleared the milepost 81.2 defect detector as we try catching up to pace them along US 84. We got to the head end on the other side of shallow water, staying with the train for about 6 miles. ahead, finding a grade crossing with original mechanical bells along the ex-Santa Fe main line. The 8548 speeds towards us at the maximum permissible speed of 55 miles an hour, as we let them go heading towards Clovis. We made our way back to Lubbock as we found the Lubbock and Western Railroad yard with another one of the Texas Tech University painted engines. The trains over here sleep throughout the day on this Sunday before cranking things back up on Monday. Maybe we'll get lucky again and catch them on the move next time. Getting back to the BNSF, a local was coming from the Plainview Subdivision with a section of international intermodal containers for Lubbock.
Down to the yard. To the yard. Yeah, love it.
Yeah. I told you I thought that was good. That's why I played it. He's got a massive.
We played leapfrog with them as they were entering Lubbock Yard. Engine number 6300 was doing the honors this afternoon. We cross over Lubbock Yard as we move east into Slaton, finding the old Santa Fe steam locomotive on display at the town square. This place bleeds ATSF, with this locomotive dating back to the mid-1900s. The Santa Fe number 1809 is one of very few engines that could be capable of moving under its own power, but hasn't moved since it was dedicated to the city of Slaton in 1955. Pretty cool stuff. The old Santa Fe depot stands guard next to the main line here as well. It's been converted into a bed and breakfast accommodation for visitors, as well as a little museum with free admission. We then found a BNSF H train terminating here in Slaton, with a Norfolk Southern ES-44 AC engine in the consist. We then went back to Lubbock as Caelan showed me some old engines that guard a grain elevator here in town. One that can't really run anymore, which was an old GP7 high hood, a B30-7 built by the Southern Pacific Railway, and NREX 1498, a GP15-1. From here, we went our separate ways as I get called into work. I get to see the same engine power that terminated in Slaton, now heading westbound towards Clovis. Ended up heading in the same direction as the train as I caught them again just outside of Clovis at Control Point Cooks. Coming back into Lubbock, I run into a westbound loaded grain train passing through Broadview. next morning, a beautiful sunrise hits the horizon as a BNSF empty grain train departs the Ferguson feed mill off of the Plainview Subdivision. Finally, on the morning of the 29th, I'm en route back south from Amarillo, finding a westbound H train passing through the sleepy town of Happy, Texas. I only had one more full day in Lubbock. So later that afternoon, I get one last outing in with Caelan, who I met up with earlier to see what we could catch. We found the Lubbock and Western on the move heading westbound from Broadview, so we found a crossing to catch them. Of course, just after setting up, something convinced me to move.
Ooh, that's a snake.
Yep, you gotta be careful out here. I didn't get it on video, but a huge snake was right in front of me moving towards the brush, so I moved to the other side of the crossing. We moved to Slaton again, finding a local running as the 181 job that was getting ready to depart westbound. BNSF SD70 ACE 9214 was on the point. Rainstorms were threatening us as we get ahead of the 9214 to catch them at speed. Knowing that I love mechanical crossing bills, Caelan found me another crossing with 2 of them as they go over County Road 7200. Attempted to chase them again before reaching Lubbock Yard, but they had a head start on us. Weather warnings were issued due to the storms coming in.
Slaton Sub, milepost 81, 81, milepost 681, 681. Wind gusts up to 60, 60 mph.
Verbally issued weather warning to the BNSF 9214, 14 west on the Slaton Subdivision, milepost 8181, Tempe, milepost 681, 681, wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. Over.
And 9214 is correct.
That is correct.
Let the 9214 go as we now had BNSF 7980 with the 101 job working Lubbock Yard. rain just barely missed our location as we moved over to the west side of Canyon Junction. A flashing red signal was indicated for the 321 job coming back east after working at Broadview. BNSF GP 39-2 2868, the ex-Santa Fe painted yellow bonnet, was on the point as they approach Avenue U. You'll see an impatient driver that decided it was a great idea to drive around the gates for this one-car-long train. This would be it for me as I head back to Amarillo in the morning. My thanks goes out to Mikey, Caelan, and his grandfather for showing me around some great spots here in Lubbock. Both of their YouTube channels will be linked in the description below. Leave a like and post your comments down in the comments section below. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Until next time, so long from Lubbock, Texas, at milepost 88.0 along BNSF's Slaton Subdivision.